Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and listening in. You take time out of your busy day and anything you're doing to listen to the podcast. Really appreciate you. I say it all the time, and I say it. I say that I say it all the time, and I will continue to say it and say, I really appreciate you for listening in, because what's a podcast without listeners? And because you've been such faithful listeners, we have been ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to listennotes.com. So thank you. Appreciate you. All right. Now, today I'm talking with Diana Danielle. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Diana Danielle. She's a tireless advocate for invisible illness and mental health. And she is a writer and publicist living in Los Angeles. And in addition to writing about mental health and invisible illness, she writes about female friendship and family dynamics for publications like Newsweek and Business Insider. And breaking news, she's currently writing a book entitled Damn Girl. It's a miraculous memoir of motherhood, migraine, and madness, which was recently longlisted in the Tall Poppy Writers Contest. So let us welcome Diana Danielle. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Robin. Do I call you Robin or Dr. Robin?
You can call me Robin.
Okay.
That's fine. You're amongst friends. I'm amongst friends.
In the
So glad
classroom, they call you Doctor.
That's the only place that I'm typically doctor is in the classroom. You're right. All right. So, thank you for asking. All right. So, but you've heard me just kind of read your introduction bio, kind of formal, but why don't you tell us in your own words? First, anything you want to say about who you are, and then about what you do.
Okay, well, as we've now established, my name is Diana Danielle, and I was very attracted. I've been listening to your podcast. I was helping push it to the top 5% globally because I'm very attracted to the word purpose. And I've always been in sync with wanting to have a purpose, wanting to live my purpose. And after having gone through some hardships, which were 5 years of something called chronic migraine, which is considered an invisible illness because you can't see a headache. But chronic migraine is different than episodic migraine, because episodic migraine is maybe you get a migraine once a month or a couple times a year. Chronic migraine is like, depending on how severe it is, mine was very severe. It's like living in a prison of pain. It's either you're getting it, having it for days, or in the hangover period, and then it just starts. So it's most like it changes your life, but not really in a good way. And I had that for 5 years. And then there were a couple months in between when I was healed miraculously. And then I started having anxiety and panic attacks, and I slipped into a depression, which became clinical. And then what happened was, we didn't know what this was, my husband and I, but it's called treatment resistant. Almost 35% of people will never respond to antidepressants, and therapy is the standard model. But the antidepressants, no matter if they're the different kinds, there's several classes of them, but if they don't work, the problem is, if you don't figure that out, like we didn't know what it was. And so every year that they didn't work, that I kept taking many kinds and higher titration, I just kept getting darker and deeper in the hole. So my miraculous healing came about through something that's called, the initials are TMS, and most everyone calls it TMS, but it stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation. And it's a healing modality in the world of neuromodulation. And it's a non-drug option, and it has like very few side effects. Just like a light headache where they're doing the tapping, and there's a very tiny, minute chance of a seizure, which of course didn't happen to me. And it completely healed me. And interestingly, I didn't use the TMS to heal my migraine, but it was approved in 2008 by the FDA to treat depression, specifically treatment-resistant depression, because by the time you get there, if the other, those are the first people that were ever doing it because of the length and it not working. And so I am an advocate, a mental health advocate, specifically within the neuromodulation. And I have a teen daughter, so I do a lot of work in adolescent mental health. And recently, I wrote an essay that's under consideration at the New York Times, and I co-wrote it with an adolescent psychiatrist. And it's about how the FDA just approved PMS for those under the age of 18, because the FDA approval was for 2008 and above. For 18 years old and above. So now, because of the youth mental health crisis, there's another way for people, to feel better and to be healed and to come back to themselves. So my purpose is, I write about it now in essays in different magazines, but I'm doing a full length work through a memoir that I'm, working on the way you are in back of you with the books, with all the structure and how to present it.
Yeah, for you, and I'm glad that you were healed and now that you're helping so many others through your
That's
story
the dream.
and
That's
your
the
work.
purpose.
Yes, yes. And are you still working as a publicist too?
I do still do PR. I do now have added, I used to do a lot of restaurant PR in the beginning of my career, hospitality. I was the in-house director of public relations for the Beverly Hills Hotel. So hospitality is like hotels and restaurants. I haven't done that as much lately because with the pandemic, restaurants are not that profitable. Like my husband's like, can you have a different specialty? But they really went, it was very hard for restaurants during the pandemic. And then during the pandemic in 2020, I started writing this book, which started out as a novel, but then I realized I wanted it to be true because I wanted to be an advocate. And some of the things that happen are like, truth is stranger than fiction. So I've started to do more literary PR representing authors, and and I'm on Instagram. That's like a book talk on TikTok and Instagram are two of the big places that authors, connect.
Makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So you have this very compelling title to your book. Tell us the main point of the book. We don't want to give away too much, but tell us kind of the main idea of the book.
Well, it has had other names, and one of them was just now I'm not remembering, but it was called Just Say Yes. But because that was about losing my mind while keeping my soul. A little, miraculous is a spiritual word. It's not a Christian book. I know you have a PhD in religion. So I wanted to be able to use the word miraculous without it like being just that, although I am a woman of faith. And before, when I said losing my mind while keeping my soul, just say yes. One of the messages, to get back to the question, is that never give up on yourself. Never, never, never give up on yourself, because after 5 years of chronic migraine, trying everything under the sun, I stumbled across a woman who insisted, for various reasons having to do with our two kids were friends, my daughter, that I had to try leeches. And so I was healed through something called herudotherapy, which is the ancient therapy of applying leeches. They suck out the blood and then your body makes new blood. And my theory for why it worked this far back, like I wasn't sure why it worked, but I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But it is known to help with migraines, like historically. I was fearful because I read a lot as a child. I still read a lot. And all the books I read were like about people using leeches and counterintuitive, dangerous, and really killing the person, like using them for cancer, which doesn't really have anything to do with it, because they were used, they were believed in, then, they went out of fashion. And now, they're actually used in hospitals. Just for you and your listeners, leeches are used across the United States. The National Institute of Health approved them, and they are used regularly for osteoarthritis and if someone gets gangrene in hospital setting.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's kind of
But
it's a
nobody knows. Nobody wants to know.
right, right. It's not something that you hear every day. Right. So you were healed, and now you're have a strong passion. It sounds like I hear it coming through to really speak to what we talked about, this invisible illness and mental health. So it sounds like you have this really motivated by this strong sense of purpose. But do you think it's important for other people to have a sense of purpose or not? And if so, why? If not, why not? So you have it. Should other people have purpose?
I think maybe, well, while you were sick, you knew about purpose. You knew the word. I did not. But I knew even then that meaning was important. What things mean, what words mean. What does it mean when I help someone? How do I feel when I'm helpful? All those things are part of that. And I think people have purpose and they might not be going around talking about it, but everything has a purpose under the sun. And so I read this thing once about a man, and he was like either worked in a park as a parking attendant or a janitor at a school. It was like something, he wasn't president of the United States, but it's all about, and this is more Buddhist, like how you look at it. He felt like he was helping people, he was serving them. They were getting what they got to the doctor because they got a parking space, or, the kids at the school have a clean, safe environment. So it's all how I think a lot of it is like how you're looking at it.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
think if you look at it that way, that it's going to be much more valuable, and you're going to feel much more the sense of purpose and the happiness that comes with a sense of purpose.
Yes, yes. All right, so let me tell you about my intention for the podcast and who we're talking to. So then that'll lead us to the next question. All right. So when I started the podcast, was thinking, who can I support? And I thought, high achieving women. And high achieving women, here's my definition. A high achieving woman is a woman who is responsible, goal oriented, ambitious in a positive way. She's good at a few things. And in her personal life, people just come to her and ask her questions, whether it's related to anything she does or not. And in her professional life, people come and ask her questions for advice, and pick her brain, just about random things. So she's the person that people come to. So I thought, she's always supporting others. So who supports her? That's what the podcast will do. Support those. And especially now, if she's at a place in her career where she's looking for more meaning and purpose. It's like, I've been doing this, whatever the thing is, and it's just like, it's not as fulfilling as it once was or never was. But now she is actively looking for meaning and purpose in her work. So that's who we're talking to right now. All right. Now, with her in mind, from your experience or background or whatever part of your work life or personal life, what's some word of advice you could give to somebody who's saying, I'm really looking for some more purpose in my life? I mean, you have it in yours because it came out of your healing and the message and work that you're committed to, but she doesn't know what hers is. What could you say to her?
Well, first I would say, the woman we're talking to, if everyone comes, she's the person people turn to. She's maybe level-headed, introspective, she's insightful, and there's a danger with everyone turning to you, where you feel like you're giving, and you're kind of giving yourself away, and that you don't have any time just for you because people are kind of knocking down your door, and you have to figure out your own path. Um, but I think if we women see that when someone's turning to us, that is empowering, and that we are helping others, and that they are like, our words are like pearls to them, and they are holding them, and they are, beholding them and treasuring them, that there's a lot of bang for that buck.
Yes, yes. And is there anything you can say to her that helped her get on the path to finding purpose?
Well, I liked also, I have to just add as a side note, I love how you said ambitious, in a positive light, or you added some kind of qualifier, because there is this whole, with the words that if they describe a man, then it's all possible. He's ambitious, he's motivated, he's a good provider for his family. And then the woman is ambitious, and she's automatically like, and then she's like a bad mom. She's selfish, she's into her career. I think that an important thing to feel good about being ambitious in a positive way is to like deconstruct the kind of patriarchal language and the way that, like I just told my daughter, um, she has to make this decision and talk to this friend of things aren't working out. And she thinks I don't want to be seen like I don't want to be selfish, but I can't do this anymore. And I said, you have to replace the word selfish with self honoring because there's so much loaded, and women are like mother, the Latin is martyr, which is like giving to everyone else. And when you're in the motherhood season of having kids, there's always a lot of like giving in your role, which is supposed to be so fulfilling. But what people are writing books about is like, yes, I love my kids. Yes, I love being a mom, but it's also hard and I feel lost and I don't know who I am. And being able to have a voice and voice that, I think that's important, and being able to see through the language. So I think that's even taking maybe your course that you were teaching about purpose. The people listening should come take your course, although maybe they can. Would have to be accepted.
I think that. Thank you. I appreciate the endorsement. Yes. But yeah, to your point, it's, a real important point that you're making. All right. So
So
now,
self-honoring, replace self-honoring, selfish. Well, sometimes there is a selfishness, and it's all right to call that a spade. But in so many ways, we're just honoring ourselves, self-honoring, and taking this moment, this self-care. And it's really you're showing your child, it could be another person, but say it was a child, that you know how to take care of yourself and that it's all right.
yes. Yes. Yeah, that's a good example for children to see, no matter if they're younger or older. It's a good example. Right?
Or how your dad was protecting you, saying, "Don't bother Robin right now. He knew
Yeah.
you were having your time, your space. You look
Yeah.
deep in thought." He was protecting you because not every child needs that kind of space. Some do.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I do appreciate that now as an adult looking back. Yeah.
It was good
Well,
parenting.
yeah, I was like, he got it
He
right.
saw you.
Got it right. Yeah.
And we all want to be seen. We all want to be loved.
Yes, yes, and to the listeners, you may have heard me tell this story before, but we're making a reference to my father and me when I was 6 years old, and I made a post about it recently, and I talk about it on the podcast, so you probably heard this story before, so I won't go into it now, but, yeah, I appreciate what you're saying about that, Diana. Alright, and now you've been very generous with your time here today, this afternoon. Is there something that I've not asked you that you want to share with the women listeners in mind? Before we tell them where they can get in touch with you and that kind of thing. But just any thoughts come to mind that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet?
Well, I want to say that I am a big advocate and proponent of female friendship. I think that I'm a total supporter, like of women supporting women. Like there's some quote, if the sky had only one star, what a sad sky it would be. And sometimes women are, there's that cattiness component that could be there depending, and there's like limited resources. Only one woman gets into the boardroom. But there's so much more joy and purpose and meaning in supporting each other. And so I would say, if you're married, if you're single, you're female, but that's like the first love story of your life is probably, I mean, you also could be, a lesbian or whatever, but usually you love your girlfriends before you ever have a relationship with someone of the opposite sex. And that those friendships will sustain you and will keep you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Diana. Now, where can people be in touch with you? I know we talked earlier that you're on social media, but where can they be in touch with you and be on the list to know when your book comes out?
Okay, the best place to be for me, my biggest platform where I post the most is on Instagram. And my daughter, who's 16, she says, we tell each other, give me your account, like what your account number is. She says, I'm looking for people who have done X, Y, or Z. Send me your at, because it's like an ampersand on Instagram. So mine is at Diana Danielle PR because of my identity as a publicist. So that is the best place. Maybe you put it in your show notes so people can see it. And also, anyone who wants to get in touch with me, you can on Instagram, you can DM, you can leave a message for the person on their account, and it's like emailing, but it's on Instagram, and so I can personally answer any purpose-driven questions.
Okay, that sounds great, and we'll be sure, of course, to put that in the show notes so they can reach out to you. All right, so thank you so much, Diana, for spending your time here this afternoon. I know there's lots of things you could be doing, so appreciate you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Robin, Dr. Robin. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure too. Okay, everyone, and you can find me on social media. I'm on all the sites, but I spend most of my time over on LinkedIn. So that's my place of my preference in social media. But either one, you can find me at Robin L. Owens, PhD. Robin L. Owens, PhD. Or you can go on over to the podcast website, leadershippurposepodcast.com, leadershippurposepodcast.com. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.